He had 3 hours of missing time. So he went under hypnosis. This is what he remembered. I'm Sarah, an artist who can't stop obsessing over the unknown. If you catch them staring at you while you sleep, don't worry, it's just their job. Consider subscribing to see any new stories I discover along this dark alien path. This story is about a man named Jay and his abduction experience in Tennessee. Jay was an average Joe. He was the kind of guy who moved back to his home state to help his mom sort out the things on the farm. Since his dad had passed away, he was helping his mom organize some things in a large machine shed. His mom, 74-year-old, down-to-earth kind of soul, she was the kind of lady that still carried a .45 on her hip. They also came from a military background. They both had security clearances. His mom actually worked in the Naval Warfare Center. He used to be a communications specialist. But Jay had a soft side, and he was actually in the midst of filming some baby birds that he was making like a little video, I guess, for his mom to view later. He'd been working all day, and it was around midnight when he had just filmed the baby bird and put his camera down. But something began to pull Jay, encourage him to go outside. We've all had experiences where we have this urge to just kind of go check on something. But in Jay's case, he took his firearm and his phone, and he left them on the table inside of the shed. Why would you leave the two things that you would need in an emergency situation behind? When he opened up the shed door, what he saw was a bright blue light. He felt his heart beat in his chest as something held its hand over his shoulder. He could feel the nails against him. In front of him, Jay saw a massive being that had to bend down, leg on one side of him just to look him in the eye. Golden eyes on a reptilian-like face with slight scales. Jay wanted to run. The voice in his head commanded him to be calm or else. In this moment, he knew who this thing was. As the thing turned around and walked back into the light, it looked over its shoulder and almost had a connection with Jay, as to say that it was very disappointed that Jay recognized him. As the saucer left, around the light pouring out from the center, there were 3 other rings wrapping around the bottom in succession? Sequence? The material on the object looked so shiny, it was like glass. Orange dull gridded laser that emerged from the craft, and they intersected in squares and triangles. A man appeared over him with gold wire framed glasses. The man had a uniform on, like a Navy uniform, but it was very ill-fitted, which is not a common thing that you would see in the military. And he says, "Jay, you know me. We're friends." Almost like just to calm him down and continue the sedation. But in his mind, Jay was just like, hell no, I don't know. You need to get the hell off my property. So not only did he see this gentleman, he also saw other military people running around. There was a guy in a lab coat that came with an inoculation gun and actually gave him something. Which seemed to bring him back from the spell he used to be under. He began fighting back, but obviously he wasn't any match. He woke up on the ground outside of the garage door, face up, looking at the eave. After a few minutes, he sits up and walks into the house. Now, the weird thing about his mom is that she's sitting half up in bed, her dog next to her. They're both kind of half awake, not super conscious. He wakes her up. She tells him it's 3:15 in the morning. He doesn't understand how he's missing 3 hours of his life. She is the lady of action. She thinks her son has been mugged or something. She immediately tells him to take off his shirt. They're gonna take all of this photo evidence behind his ear where he was burned, on top of his head. He has restraint marks. His jacket was like this. It's like someone was using his jacket to restrain him. There was also puncture wounds on his back. She asked him where his gun and his phone is, just assumed they were back in the shed. She's like, all right, I'll cover you. Which is an awesome thing to think about a 74-year-old lady in her bathrobe saying. In the morning, he realizes when he took a video of those baby birds, he forgot to hit stop for more than 2 hours. There's a recording of what occurred. Angelia Shear is the researcher that she works with MUFON of Tennessee. Along with other researchers, Miss Shear goes to the property, does some investigation. It really did help them feel better about the situation. During their investigations, Jay reports after Miss Shear left, there were unidentified black helicopters hovering around his property. His property was supposed to be a no-fly zone, and they couldn't find out any information when they called the airports. One of the stories Jay's mom mentioned was that one night she woke up to find a figure leading her son up the stairs by the shoulder. She kind of just shrugged and went back to sleep. This type of behavior seems to suggest a hypnotic-like state, and fear is kind of taken out of the equation. Hearing this story at first, I was really excited because of all the detail and all the evidence. Listening to Jay a little bit further, I was even more invested because of his feelings that he had after the experience. I've always had this fear and anxiety when I go to sleep. I would get night sweats. I would just my heart would be racing. It's definitely reassuring to know that people do have similar issues surrounding unexplained events that have happened in their lives. If you come at something with an educational perspective, it gives you a little bit of comfort around that area. And for me, it actually helps dissipate that anxiety. That's all I have. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe if you're into this stuff. Comment below and tell me if you have any theories about what happened. And if you enjoy weird art, my website is in the description. I will also put in Angelia Shear's website along with that radio show that I listen to.